Under one roof, behind his back, the return that broke everything. She had built a new life brick by brick, not knowing that the past she ran from would soon be sharing her roof again. The cozy house she once called a haven was slowly turning into a silent war zone, because he had returned. The man who once signed her paychecks. The man who once shattered her world with a letter of termination and a gaze of regret. Now that man, her ex-CEO, had moved into the guest room, thanks to a twist of fate and her boyfriend's generosity. But only she knew what that gaze truly meant. Unfinished business. The irony wasn't lost on her. She had tried so hard to escape his orbit. But now he was closer than ever. His footsteps down the hallway stirred her soul like distant thunder, a sound she had once loved and feared. Her boyfriend, oblivious to the brewing storm, greeted him like an old friend. The betrayal hadn't happened yet. But something colder than betrayal already lingered in the air. She tried to love the man she was with. She really did. He was kind, generous, and he made her laugh in the early days. But lately she was only laughing less, eating less, sleeping less. Hunger gnawed at her. Not the kind that food could fix, but the kind that curled in her gut when her eyes locked with a man she once swore she hated. The new tenant, her ex-CEO, seemed to forget boundaries. He moved with confidence, like the house already belonged to him. He stood too close. He asked too many questions. He remembered too much. Her favorite wine, how she curled her hair when nervous, how she always bit her lip right before telling a lie. He was a man who had lost her once and didn't intend to lose her again. Not to some man who didn't notice the way she stopped singing in the shower. "I'm not here to ruin anything," he said one night, leaning in too close in the kitchen as she chopped vegetables with shaking hands. "But if something is already ruined, am I really the villain for picking up the pieces?" She didn't answer. She couldn't. Her throat was dry. Her eyes watered not from the onions on the cutting board but from the ache rising in her chest. He kissed her that night. It wasn't part of any plan. It wasn't romantic. It was raw, angry. A kiss that said, "You think this is over." A kiss that tore open scars she thought had healed. She slapped him. Then she cried. Then, to her horror, she kissed him back, only for a second, and pulled away as guilt crushed her. "I have a boyfriend," she whispered, trembling. "And I have a memory," he replied. "One that doesn't let me forget what we had." He tried to forget. She really did. She threw herself into being the perfect girlfriend. She smiled harder, kissed longer, faked laughter and interest in conversations about promotions and crypto and gym gains. But every moment she spent pretending, her heart grew more starved. Then came the messages. Late at night, when her boyfriend thought she was asleep, he would sneak out of bed, phone in hand. She had ignored it once or twice. Until one night she followed the blue glow of the screen to the hallway, where he was whispering sweet words that weren't for her. Her legs buckled. Her hands trembled. The truth pierced her like glass. Her boyfriend, the one who welcomed the ex into their home, was betraying her. Emotionally, physically, deeply, repeatedly. She wanted to scream, but silence felt safer. She tiptoed back, curled under the sheets, and stared at the ceiling while a single tear ran into her ear. In the morning she smiled again. She made coffee. She kissed him on the cheek. But something had snapped. She was no longer the girl who begged to be loved. She was the woman who had options. Vexio knew. He saw it in her eyes. "You're starving," he said quietly in the hallway one night. She didn't argue. "I can feed you," he added. Emotionally, spiritually, even physically, the offer hung in the air, thick with meaning. And then it began. Late-night conversations on the balcony under the stars. Shared coffee sips from the same mug. Lingering stares over dinner. Hands brushing in passing. Tension coiled between them like a live wire, crackling with every word left unsaid. She hated him. She wanted him. She was confused, broken, angry, and above all, desperate to feel something real again. One night, while her boyfriend slept with his back to her and his phone buzzing with unread messages, she slipped out into the living room and found the ex waiting, shirtless, reading a book he pretended to care about. "I can't do this," she whispered. "Yes, you can," he said. "You already are." Their lips met again. This time slower. Warmer. Still wrong, but this time it didn't feel like betrayal. Felt like waking up after a long, cold sleep. She cried afterward. Not because of him, but because she remembered who she used to be before love turned to survival. "You used to believe in yourself," he said, holding her hand as tears fell. "I remember the girl who walked into boardrooms like she owned them." "She's gone," she whispered. "No," he said, his voice firm. "She's hungry. And she's tired of pretending she's full." 4 days after, she walked a tightrope. Her boyfriend began to grow suspicious, not of infidelity, but of independence. She no longer begged for attention. She no longer craved validation. She began dressing for herself again, talking back, smiling in ways that had nothing to do with him. He didn't like it. He raised his voice one night. She didn't flinch. He accused her of changing. She didn't deny it. And when he reached for her arm a little too hard, she didn't cry. The ex was already in the room, already stepping between them. "This isn't your place," her boyfriend snapped. "It is if she's not safe," came the reply. Was a storm in their eyes. And her, in between them, heart pounding. "I can handle myself," she said calmly. And she did. She asked him to leave. Her boyfriend. The one who promised her forever. The one who couldn't keep even a few hours of loyalty. She packed his bags herself. He laughed. Then he cried. Then he begged. He shut the door. But the story didn't end with that. 'Cause love is messy. Because healing isn't linear. Because kissing someone who remembers your soul is dangerous. She didn't fall into the ex's arms the next morning. She needed time. Faith. Silence. She needed to rebuild not just her life, but her sense of self. The ex waited. Some nights he left flowers on her desk. Some mornings he made breakfast and said nothing. Some evenings he sat beside her in silence, letting her cry without asking why. And slowly, she began to live again. The hunger faded. The sadness softened. The tears still came, but now they cleansed instead of burned. She wasn't in love yet. Not again. But she was becoming someone worthy of love. And that was the real twist. The twist that no betrayal could destroy. That no ex could manufacture. That no kiss could confuse. The twist was her. She was the suspense. The secret. The storm. The survivor. And she wasn't done yet. The power she never knew she had. The house was quieter now. Not just because her ex-boyfriend was gone, but because her own mind had finally begun to still. There was no more checking his phone behind his back. No more fake laughter over empty dinners. No more begging to be seen. She had ended the performance, closed the curtain on that version of herself. And now, she stood in the middle of her life like a woman who had survived her own drowning. Her ex-CEO was still there. He didn't push. He didn't plead. He simply remained, like a shadow that had finally stopped chasing her and started walking beside her. "I'm not asking for anything," he said one morning over toast and soft jazz, "except for a chance to prove that I see you." She believed him. Not because of his words, but because of what he didn't say. He didn't talk about sex. He didn't talk about the past. He didn't try to relive old memories or trap her in nostalgia. He talked about her, her work, her dreams, her fears. And that terrified her more than anything. Because when someone truly sees you, you can no longer hide. One night, he walked in while she was curled up on the couch, still in her robe, eating cereal straight from the box. Her face was bare, her hair a mess, and she was crying over a movie she'd seen 100 times. "You good?" he asked softly. "No," she sniffled. "But I'm not pretending to be anymore." He just nodded, grabbed a spoon, and shared the cereal without another word. That silence felt more romantic than any roses, more intimate than any kiss. And yet, the kisses came too. One night under the flicker of candlelight when the power went out. He kissed her like the world had stopped spinning. It was deep, slow, and full of restraint, but underneath it there was a storm brewing. A storm that neither of them could ignore much longer. They became lovers again. Slowly, respectfully, passionately. But this time she wasn't a girl in need of saving. She was a woman choosing her joy. Their chemistry was explosive but not chaotic. Their bodies remembered each other. Their breaths synced like they'd never broken apart. She felt hunger again, not for love alone but for herself, her own life, her own desires. And that's when it happened. The truth. Twist. The thing she didn't see coming. Her ex-boyfriend came back. Not to win her over. Not to apologize. But to threaten everything she'd rebuilt. He'd found out about the quiet romance blooming under his nose. He'd found the messages, photos, the soft evidence of a fire rekindled. You brought him here to humiliate me, he sneered when he showed up unannounced. No, she said, voice calm. I didn't bring him. You brought this on yourself. You were mine. No, I was never yours. I was just the version of me you wanted to control. She expected shouting. But, please. Instead he gave her silence, then revenge. The next day she was fired from her new job. No explanation. No reason. She later learned that her ex-boyfriend, still connected to her field, had poisoned her reputation. The walls started closing in again. The old fears returned. No career. No love. No protection. But this time she didn't break. She stood taller. And she fought back. She applied again. Started freelance work. Built her own website. Offered consulting. She didn't beg for handouts. She created her own table. Her ex-CEO offered help. Connections. Capital. But she refused. I need to know I can rise on my own. He respected her even more for that. Weeks passed. Then months. Her business grew. People started talking. The girl who once cried quietly at night was now a speaker at women's conferences. The woman who once begged for love now gave others permission to walk away from empty hands. She became something she never expected. Admired. And still, through it all, the ex-CEO stayed. He celebrated her quietly. Kissed her forehead after long nights. Held her hand when she couldn't sleep. Made love to her in ways that spoke of reverence. Not just lust. Then one night, as they lay wrapped in blankets, staring at the ceiling fan humming above them, she asked, "Why me?" He turned to her, brow furrowed. "What do you mean? You could have anyone. Any woman. Younger. Less complicated." He smiled. "I don't want easy. I want real. And you. You are painfully, beautifully real." She cried again that night, not from sadness but from finally being seen. And the last twist came not with betrayal, not with pain, but with a whisper. "I want you to move in with me. Not because I want to keep you, but because I want to build with you." She didn't answer right away. She needed one more thing. To go back. To the place she first met him. The office building where her life changed forever. Where she'd once been fired, then kissed, then forgotten. She stood outside the glass doors and took a deep breath. And for the first time, she wasn't haunted. She was healed. Then she went home. To the man she'd once feared. To the man she now trusted. To the man who had once been her end, and was now her beginning. The suspense wasn't in who cheated. It wasn't in who kissed who first. It wasn't in the messages or the heartbreak. The suspense was in her becoming. The real twist was that she didn't need either of them to survive. But she chose love on her terms. And that made all the difference.